So I'll just come out and say it. PCS Collectibles makes some of the best statues that I simply cannot justify paying for. They cover all of my favorite IPs: Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Street Fighter, Marvel, and WWE. And I'd love to drop $600 plus on some of their various WWE statues, but then there's that whole responsible adult priorities nonsense that kind of taps on your shoulders when you're contemplating making such a purchase. Yeah, but I was stumbling through GameStop's website the other day, or the other week, and silly me, I thought I saw some thumbnails for WWE statues by PCS Collectibles, and they were only $50. I thought it was an error, one that I most certainly wanted to take advantage of. And these were not the quarter scale statues that I've been drooling over for the past few months. No, these are the smaller 10 to 11-inch statues that PCS Collectibles is also known for. So how well do these hold up to their quarter scale counterparts? That's what we're here to find out. I picked up Stone Cold Steve Austin and Undertaker, and I assume PCS is going to release characters like Rock, Ultimate Warrior, Hogan, if these do well, or perhaps they're already in the works, who knows. Starting with Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you look at this guy from across the room, you'd think that they nail his look, and they did. They've got the classic entrance pose, sadly without the actual ring rope base. However, when you get close, you begin to remember that this is roughly a $50 statue and compromises were made. Some I can forgive, like the aforementioned missing ring rope base. Instead, you kind of get this flat base with Austin's skull icon. But other things like some sloppy paint apps in his skin and the obvious seams showing around his arms and neck are far more disappointing. Still, there are strong areas like details like his Texas tattoo, his gold chain, and his leather jacket, which is highlighted by great metallic paint job of his name, the 316, and the skull logos. His face sculpt is okay. It's a little odd. Depending on the angle, his face is either like dead on or it's a little off. But overall, I like the little details like his goatee, sorry, and his facial expression, and because it really helps bring out his likeness. One quick note though about Austin: be careful. The pegs on his base don't carry his weight very well. Yes, he does lean, but in time that lean becomes much more apparent, so you'll really want to keep an eye out on him just in case he tips over. Moving on to the Undertaker, he's decked out in his SummerSlam return gear, which kicked off his 94 through 96 run, that purple and black run. Let me get this out the way. More so than the Austin statue, I think this loses a lot of detail compared to his quarter scale version. The face sculpt is plain. It's lacking the hair hanging over his face, the undead eyes. The makeup kind of seems like an afterthought. His body proportions seem a bit bulky, as Taker's was still relatively slim at this time. They've also decided to have his coat buttoned up and closed, which I would have preferred it to be open, like the quarter scale counterpart. On the plus side, the coat has good detail, showing off all the folds and creases, the buttons on his sleeves, and the colored pockets. And while his purple gloves, kind of dull in color, but are given a similar amount of detail, they extend far into his coat as if he's wearing a purple undersuit. I don't really understand that. That area should be black, like the color of his coat. And while I understand that this is Undertaker's logo today, it certainly wasn't his logo back in 1994. So if you're gonna bother to produce kind of a throwback, why overlook details like that? Finally, the pegs in his base don't line up with the holes in his boots, so I was only able to place him on one peg. I don't know if that's just a mistake in my statue. Maybe your statue will be more accurate and you'll be able to line up the pegs with the holes in his boots. If you can't tell, I'm really disappointed by this Undertaker statue. $50 is a reason for compromise, but it's not an excuse to release something that I kind of view as somewhat half-assed. And I'm kind of wondering, will we ever get a good middle ground for wrestling statues or figures? It seems like you're stuck picking between high dollar statues from companies like PCS or action figures that I personally think are terrible from companies like Mattel or Jakks Pacific. I believe there's an audience out there looking for good, solid WWE statues and figures that are somewhere between $80 to $150 maybe. I think PCS's early offerings is a mixed bag. I'll give Stone Cold an 8. And I'll give Undertaker a 6. As I'm doing with my previous, or not previous, but my reviews now, I'm kind of trying to project what I think other people will think about these things. And I think PCS is onto something. At least from afar, these guys do a better job of resembling their real life counterparts than nearly anything else outside of the high dollar statues. Even Undertaker, despite as much as I've kind of slammed the statue overall, I think he's probably the best version at this size. And they're affordable. They're kind of almost an impulse buy, and they can easily be obtained. So I think PCS is onto something. I think these will be viewed as very favorable amongst most reviewers, and I think fans will dig them as well. And we'll see where they go from here. If they're following the quarter scale releases, we should get Hogan, Warrior, Savage, Rock, Flair sometime soon, if not within the next year. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you plan on getting these? Do you already have them? And what do you think about PCS kind of doing this kind of dual release schedule where they do the quarter scale versions and then they have kind of the smaller, more budget friendly versions? I personally think that's a good thing. I wish more companies would do something like that. But let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.